Hello everyone, this is Anisha for Intellify, welcoming you all to this session on comparing the three sectors. This is an important topic to discuss in the chapter Sectors of Indian Economy for Economics Class 10th. The various production activities in the primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors produce a large number of goods and services. Furthermore, they employ a lot of people to produce these goods and services. The next step, therefore, would be to see how much goods and services are produced and how many people work in each sector. But there is one precaution to be taken while evaluating. We only include the final goods and services, since the value of the final goods already includes the value of all intermediate goods that we used in making the final good. From there, we come to an important concept, which is the GDP or gross domestic production. The value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that year, and the sum of production in the three sectors gives what is called the gross domestic product or GDP of a country. It is the value of all final goods and services produced within a country during a particular year. GDP shows how big the economy is. In India, this huge task is undertaken by the central government. The ministry, with the help of various government departments of all the Indian states and union territories, collects information relating to total volume of goods and services and their prices, and then estimates the GDP. The following is the graph showing GDP by primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. You might have observed the trend shown by the graph. Now let us discuss this historical change in sectors. At the initial stages of development, primary sector was the most important sector of economic activity. With innovations in farming methods, agriculture began to prosper and people could take up other activities. New methods of manufacturing were introduced and industries expanded. The secondary sector gradually became the most important in terms of production and employment. Industries like textiles, food processing, equipment manufacturing started in large numbers. This led to the introduction of services like education, healthcare, banking, etc. And gradually, tertiary sector became the most important in terms of production and employment. You might have observed another trend from the graph. Over the 40 years between 1973 to 74 and 2013 to 14, while production in all the three sectors has increased, it has increased the most in the tertiary sector. As a result, in the year 2013 to 14, the tertiary sector has emerged as the largest producing sector in India. There could be several reasons for this. First, in any country, several services such as hospitals, educational institutions, post and telegraph services, administrative offices, banks, insurance companies, etc. are required. These can be considered as basic services. In a developing country, the government has to take responsibility for the provision of these services. Second, the development of agriculture and industry leads to the development of services such as transport, trade, storage, and as we have already seen, the greater the development of primary and secondary sectors, more would be the demand for such services. Third, as income levels rise, certain sections of people start demanding many more services like eating out, tourism, shopping, private hospitals, professional training, etc. You can see this change quite sharply in cities, especially in metropolitan ones. Fourth, over the past decade or so, certain new services, such as those based on information and communication technology, have become important and essential. The production of these services has been rising rapidly. Observe these two graphs. Graph 2 presents percentage share of the three sectors in GDP. The tertiary sector has emerged as the largest share in GDP in 2013 to 14. Graph 3 shows the share of employment in the three sectors in 1972 to 73 and 2011 to 12. The primary sector continues to be the largest employer even now. This trend is observed because not enough jobs were created in the secondary and tertiary sectors. Even though the industrial output or the production of goods went up by more than 9 times during the period, employment in the industry went up by around 3 times. The same applies to the tertiary sector, while production in service sector rose by 14 times. Employment in the service sector rose around 5 times. As a result, more than half of the workers in the country are working in the primary sector, mainly in agriculture, producing only a quarter of the GDP. In contrast to this, the secondary and tertiary sectors produce 4/5 of the produce, whereas they employ less than half of the people. What it means is that there are more people in agriculture than necessary. So, even if you move a few people out, production will not be affected. In other words, workers in the agriculture sector are underemployed. This kind of underemployment is hidden in contrast to someone who does not have a job and is clearly visible as unemployed. Hence, it is also called disguised unemployment. From the discussion, we can see that there continues to be considerable underemployment in agriculture. Also, there are a lot of people who are not employed at all. So, in what ways can one increase employment for people? Employment can be given to people by identifying, promoting, and locating industries and services in semi-rural areas. Every state or region has the potential for increasing the income and employment by tourism or regional craft clusters or new services like information technology. For example, a study conducted by the Planning Commission or NITI Aayog estimates that nearly 20 lakh jobs can be created in the education sector alone. Whatever we discussed previously would take a long time to implement. For a short term, we need to take some quick measures. Recognizing this, the central government in India has made a law implementing right to work in about 625 districts of India. It is called Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005 or MGNREGA 2005. Under this Act, all those who are able to and are in need of work in rural areas are guaranteed 100 days of employment in a year by the government. If the government fails in its duty to provide employment, it will give unemployment allowances to the people. The type of work that in future would help to increase the production from land will be given preference under this Act. That was the end of the video. Hope it was helpful in understanding the concept of comparing the three sectors. Thank you.